Hi everyone, my name is Xinyan, and before I begin my presentation, I want to think about this question. Why do many students and even teachers feel nervous before each performance? Is this tension benefit for us? Surprisingly, a study conducted found that music performance anxiety, colloquially referred to as stage fright, is a widely acknowledged condition in the field of music performance. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about delivering successful performance. So you won't have to worry about this. All you will need to do is follow the advice that I will give you today. I have divided my talk into three parts. Firstly, I will introduce what is MPA and some of its manifestations. Then, I will propose some effective ways to solve it. Finally, I will finish with a little information about the benefit of MPA. This talk should last about 10 minutes, and if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them at the end. So let's get started then. Firstly, music performance anxiety is a widely acknowledged condition in the field of music performance. Many famous performers from Chopin, Liszt to Barbara Streisand have acknowledged the debilitating effects of this psychological condition. The greatest example of this was Vladimir Harawas. It got so bad that he had retired for 12 years. Performers don't like to speak about it because they are ashamed of it. Lehler described MPA as a complex phenomenon, combining three modalities of anxiety: somatic, behavioral, and cognitive. The cognitive component of MPA is well described by Simon, who defined MPA as the experience of persisting distressful apprehension about or actual impairment of performance skills in a public context to a degree unwarranted given the individual's musical aptitude, training, and level of preparation. The psychological manifestations of MPA have received more attention in the literature, as their impact upon performance is often more readily apparent. Cano identified accelerated heart rate, contracted arteries, which leads to cold extremities, inhibited gastrointestinal activity, sweating. I still remember my first performance. It was a concert between teachers and students. I have been preparing for this concert for a few months. I remember being backstage and trying to wipe my hand with a tissue because my hand was sweating. Dilated pupils and a rush of adrenaline as being typical manifestations of sympathetic arousal. Music performance anxiety may also manifest itself in a number of ways behaviorally, such as avoidance of practice or performance, or an increased number of errors in performance. Another point worth mentioning is that there are ways to deal with this condition. Regarding MPA, there are few studies to tell us how to solve it. Many people know they speak about the psychotherapy. Peers can check you everything under the sun, what people should eat on the day of your performance. But nobody ever speaks about being properly prepared. As I was saying, there is no secret about it. We just have to be properly prepared and have rich performing experience. First, let's talk about our preparations. Before giving a concert, we all have enough time to prepare. We should make our weekly or daily practice goal. For example, what piece do you want to practice today? Instead of practicing the piano blindly in the practice room. When approaching the concert, you can adjust your practice style. Start now, as I show you in the video. When we practice our pieces very skilled, we often hear this sound in all the time in the practice room. Like, for example, I play the Chopin Sonata in B minor, like this. And very fast and very skilled. But when the time close to the concert, I usually deliberately slow down my pace to practice. For example, I usually very slow. And sometimes I usually focus on melody in harmony. Like I think this ways is very useful before you get in the stage. And the second, there is also ample stage experience. Cardiff has a wealth of student activities to get involved in, such as performance seminars and quilt. Go to these events more often so you won't be afraid of the stage. Moving on, let's now look at the benefit of MPA. First of all, we need to understand that MPA is a very common state. We should not be negative about it, to be afraid of it. Naturally, stage fright is part of what it is that we do. We should be proud of it, because it's a signal that you are responsible. You need to encourage yourself. I was recreating this masterpiece of mine. Some of the greatest minds that ever walked the face of the earth. What responsibility! That's when I started to get stage fright. Okay, to sum up then, there are a number of easy steps that can be taken to make sure you deliver your performance successful. I have told you about definition and some of its manifestations. I then talked about preparation and performing experience. Finally, I will gave you a little information about the benefit of MPA. I'd like to finish with a final piece of advice to remember when you next give a performance. Take a look at the video. When you feel a little panicked before you start playing, pause a second and take a deep breath like this. Regain control. Then when you get When you feel a little panicked before you start playing, pause a Sorry, I can play this again. Something wrong. When you feel a little panicked before you start playing, pause a second and take a deep breath like this. Regain control. Then when you get ready, you can start. One thing that I have learned is that nobody will notice you're nervous to the extent that you do. Well, that brings me to the end of my presentation. This is my reference. Thank you very much for listening, and if you have any questions, I can deal with them now. Thank you.